Okay, we're on question number 3, lesson 27. Julie had 50 milliliters of 5 molar copper 2 sulfate, and if she combined this compound with iron fillings, shavings from iron metal, she could produce iron 2 sulfate and copper. How many grams of copper could she potentially produce if she used all 50 milliliters of the 5 molar copper 2 sulfate solution? Okay, first thing we do is we write the equation. Copper sulfate plus iron yields iron sulfate plus copper. This one's balanced already, so we can go on to the next step, underlining the components, copper sulfate and copper. So we start with copper sulfate and we're looking for how many grams of copper. Okay, and then at this point we're going to write down our mole to mole ratio and molar mass of our two items. So mole to mole ratio is 1:1. Molar mass of this is 160 grams, and molar mass of this is 64 grams. Okay, so then we're going to expand molarity, mole to moles per liter. So we're given 5 molar copper sulfate, and that equals 5 moles of copper sulfate per 1 liter. Okay, and then we're going to calculate the mass for the given molarity. So we have 5 moles of copper sulfate per 1 liter, and 1 mole of copper sulfate is 160 grams. So your moles will cancel out and you'll have grams, and we end up with 800 grams of copper sulfate per liter. Okay, then we're going to set up our ratio. 800 grams for 1,000 milliliters is the same as or equals x grams over 50 milliliters. We solve for x and we get x equals 40 grams of copper sulfate. Okay, now we're going to convert the grams to moles. So we take 40 grams of copper sulfate, multiply it by the formula weight of copper sulfate, and we get 0.25 moles of copper sulfate. Alright, so now we know that we started with 0.25 moles of copper sulfate. We're going to apply the mole ratio. It's 0.25 moles of copper sulfate times, and then we put moles of copper sulfate in the denominator so they cancel. So 1 mole of copper over 1 mole of copper sulfate, because it was 1:1. And we've converted it to 0.25 moles of copper. One more step. So we convert moles to grams. So we take our 0.25 moles of copper, multiply that by the formula weight or the molar mass of copper, which is 1 mole per 64 grams. We put the moles in the denominator so they cancel, and our answer is 16 grams of copper. All right, one more for this page.